My name is Dr. Shonda Macias, and thank you for coming to our classroom today, our virtual classroom about I-71 and social equity in Washington, D.C. I'd like to first thank our sponsors, Rooted in Good, for supporting our narrative and also our programming throughout this year. Well, this is our last program in 2024, and it's just been amazing. Our social equity series is important because women are included in this definition. It is time to realize that the name of the company goes in your name and not in your husband's names, and you are the leader. So be bold and take your rightful place at the table in 2024 if you already haven't. And if you sit at a table that it's only one seat for a woman, it's time to destroy the table. And I say all that very gratefully that our following are women and men that support women. And now let's talk about our programming today. I-71 and social equity in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C.'s medical cannabis program began in 2010 with the passing of Initiative 59. Now, this allowed for the medical marijuana for qualified patients. However, legal hurdles delayed its implementation in 2013. Initiative 71 passed in November 2014, and it legalized the possession of small amounts of marijuana for personal use in Washington, D.C. It also allowed for individuals 21 years and older to possess up to 2 ounces of marijuana and grow a limited number of plants at home for personal use. However, selling marijuana remains illegal under this initiative until now. And I say I pivot into now because today, DC has the Cannabis Equity Program. It is designed to promote diversity and inclusion in the cannabis industry. It aims to provide opportunities for individuals who have been disproportionately impacted by the enforcement of cannabis laws. This program offers various support mechanisms such as business grants, technical assistance, and licensing preferences to eligible applicants from communities affected by previous drug policies. The goal is to create a fair and inclusive industry that benefits those historically marginalized by cannabis related conviction and arrest. And I am so excited about our panelists that we have today. Our first guest today is Anna, and Anna is one of our regulators in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to give this opportunity for her to introduce herself and all the amazing things that she does.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Shonda, for the invitation, and welcome to everyone joining us, whether live or watching this later. I'm sure that there's a lot of questions about how to become a legal medical cannabis business in the district. And I have a lot of those answers, and I have a lot of resources for the rest of the things that I don't know. So I've been with the former agency ABRA since 2018, so just a little bit over 5 years, and with the medical cannabis program since its transition from DC Health in 2020. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
I am so excited to have you here. As you all know, that I am a DC fan of the program, and I love this opportunity for our community to go from what they consider an illegal market to a legal market, or what they actually call legacy market to a legal market. And there's so many people that deserve this opportunity, so I'm really excited. And that actually brings me to my next guest. And we have the Congressman Oye with us today from Washington, D.C. It is a pleasure having you today. Can you do a little self-introduction? All right. I think we have you there.
Absolutely, and I hopefully I can Be heard fine. Thank you so much for the invitation, doctor. My name is Dr. Oye Owole. Am I breaking up?
Just a little bit.
Okay, I apologize. Let me restart. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm glad to be here. I am Dr. Oye Owolewa. I'm the U.S. representative of Washington, D.C. I'm the only elected healthcare worker in the district. Since 2021, we've been tasked with fighting for D.C. statehood for all matters affecting D.C. Also been involved with just increasing and balancing and equalizing the economic playing field by introducing contracting opportunities, introducing the grant process, introducing the certification process to minority business owners. And I definitely want to really full-fledged support this initiative. The cannabis industry and the system behind it is a racial justice issue. We want to make sure that those communities hardest impacted by the war on crime and those that reflect our communities are also make sure that we are ready for it, and as well we're promoting safety, equality, public safety, making sure that we're the ones that benefit from it the most. So I want to thank you again for inviting me here, and I can't wait to be engaged with this panel.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm so excited. And the reason why I'm excited is because I know there's a lot of things happening in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to pivot this to Anna is that can you speak on the new programs and the applications that are out in Washington, D.C. and what are the goals and how can we get involved?
So, yes, it is a new day in DC. So, we now have I would say it's not non-competitive. So previously, if you were applying and you're familiar with this process, you are up against everyone for a very limited number of slots. That process has gone away with the introduction of the MCAA amendment, and that is really wonderful for everyone because it turns I think towards collaboration for everyone. So we can now assist applicants in completing their applications, and we're able to, move them along just as any other licensee applicant in this process. So that means you can look at the licenses that are currently available. We're on an open application schedule. That schedule is available on our website, abca.dc.gov. And we're currently in the unlicensed operator open application period. So that means if you were currently operating medical, well, not medical, but you're currently operating cannabis business district, and now you are interested in becoming what now is currently a medical cannabis only program, you can move forward with that process as long as you have the requirements listed on our website, and I can go over those as well.
Well, since we have you here, and I'm so excited about this issue because born and I'm gonna say raised in the DMV. It's so important because I have cousins and families and friends that are like, we want to be a part of the medical cannabis industry and how to do it. And I'm like, hold on, just tune in tonight. So tell us more about the program and what licenses you have available.
So the current open application period is for internet retailers, and cultivators who are operating in the district prior to December 31st, 2022. That's for everyone. And speaking to the specific social equity aspect, we do have a social equity applicant status, which allows for lesser licensing fees for the first 3 years, lesser application fees, and access to, once funded, our social equity fund that's being managed by DSLBD. So that means that if you are a returning citizen by our definition, which is someone who was arrested, convicted, or incarcerated for a cannabis or other drug charge, as well as one other criteria, whether that's meeting an income requirement or you also have a family member who was considered a returning citizen under this definition. And that includes yourself, your spouse, your child, a parent, grandparent, as well as a sibling. And so we know that when someone in a family is affected by the criminal justice system, it affects everyone in the family. So that's part of the reason why that definition was broadened.
Amazing. I can't even start to talk about all the women that when their husbands or their significant others were incarcerated, they became single family households, and two incomes went down to one, and then learning how to live on social services and programs and survive. We deserve it. Like we deserve some type of you know reparations for that. So I think we always look at it from the standpoint of the male. And as the CEO of Women Grow, I'm like, single parenthood is very hard, especially when you have an incarcerated loved one that you can't really help and that can't help you, and you're dependent upon yourself and your community, which is equally devastated in the war against drugs. It wasn't just individuals, it was everybody. And so to be able to expand the program so women that can participate along with other individuals is just amazing. And it's just so empowering going into 2024. Like, we get a shot at this, and I'm grateful. And Congressman, I got to throw you in here. Let's talk about what is happening on the congressional level. Can you help us? Or, what are the conversations happening about reform?
Absolutely, and thank you for that question. One of the biggest advancements has been the introduction of the Safe Banking Act in the Senate. It recently passed this committee, and what that is, it allows banks to actually have business with dispensaries. What we see nowadays is that dispensaries are forced to keep all their money inside their location, which increases their amount they have to pay for security, which increases the amount for public safety, and quite frankly, creates an unsafe environment at times. So this is one step closer for us to be able to have a real business and be able to function with the bank support. In addition, because DC is not a state, there are certain riders that allow us to kind of skirt the sale of it and make it medicinal, but recreational is not yet in our horizon. With that said, recently, even in the Republican-led House, there are some conversations about easing up those regulations. So people, regardless of the reason why, are able to be involved with marijuana. We see that as less dangerous than alcohol, and there's certain other drugs that are really tearing up our streets. So being able to really decide what is a big deal. Me being a pharmacist, knowing that marijuana is right now a Schedule I drug, which means there's absolutely no medical purpose for it, whereas throughout history we've seen it being used medicinally, is also another undertaking that we can definitely use to make sure we reduce the stigma and really enjoy the benefits. And to be honest, not point fingers at each other or demonize each other, especially folks of color, and really making sure that life is fair for DC residents and beyond.
I appreciate that. You hit so many different high notes, no pun intended, that I am so excited about, but to also bring awareness, which is DC statehood kind of restricts our voice in the bigger sense. And I think if we had a more access to having more of a voice, our vote would count and not be suppressed by the rest of the congressional members. So that's something I definitely support, and I want to make that known to everyone in our community. But also one thing that you touched upon is how in our community as well, there's some pushback about the legalization of medical cannabis or cannabis in general. And I know back in 2018, we had the first cannabis summit at Emmanuel Baptist Church in New York. And it was a lot of controversy around that, whether the parishioners or even, how the congregation felt about it, because as I've already alluded to, and what is fact is that our population of African-American males were incarcerated by the targeting of of cannabis usage possession. And with that, we're afraid to go into this licensing that Anna has definitely said is available for us, and they created the program for us, and that you're saying that there's legislation to even have safe banking for us, and then we're hesitant. Can you talk a little bit about that point?
Absolutely. It's not just policy, but it's also reaching out to the community. I live in Ward 8, Southeast Washington, D.C. And one thing I noticed is that there's a huge diversity. And when people hear about diversity, they usually just think of skin deep. But what I also realized is also a diversity of how people take in information, whether it's knocking on their doors, whether it's newsletters, whether it's calling people up directly. Sometimes we have to get to people specifically because those in marginalized communities are the last to hear about policy. And as people know in the cannabis industry, one of the biggest concerns is multi-state organizations coming in and feasting up on DC once things are available. So we have to make sure that people know the information, that people are less hesitant about being involved, and understand that people in the government are here to help. It's not just about being afraid of being seen or trying to do it yourself. There are people like folks in DSLVD, people like folks in offices, contract and procurement, who are literally being paid to help people from certain communities and just people in DC in general. So please access this information because there's nowhere like DC in terms of the opportunities for people who used to be incarcerated or folks from marginalized communities.
You know, you touched on another thing. I'm going to pivot back to Anna on this, is that there's all these opportunities. Anna, what licenses are actually available for people to apply to today in Washington, D.C.?
So today, unlicensed operators can apply for cultivation center licenses, internet retailer, and retailer licenses. And if they're currently operating in a location where they're, maybe in a zoning prohibited space, which is residential, or if they're not in another zoning that's allowed currently for cultivation, they are allowed to show that they were previously operating in that location and move to a location that is allowed. So we are, we understand that not every location and every business that is legacy is going to be able to move forward where they are currently. Moving forward, March 1st, we'll be accepting applications for social equity applicants only for retailers and internet retailers. And then July 1, 2024, we'll accept all applications for retailers and internet retailers.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I know some people had questions about they know what the retailer is, cultivation. What does it make it unique to be an internet retailer?
So an internet retailer is no storefront location. You're purely selling online or through an app, and you're able to make deliveries directly from your warehouse to the patient or caregiver's home in the district. Previously, we had applications open for manufacturers as well as couriers. Those have now closed, but moving forward, I'm sure those will open up again, just not in the current licensing cycle.
Amazing. And there's no reason why not to participate. It's just, it's such a wonderful opportunity. And Washington, D.C. is like the epitome of tourism. And I could see like someone coming here and just going on the internet and wanting to make a purchase for medication and being able to do so with this program. So again, I applaud DC APCA's efforts in this, because we're really trying to make this accessible for all. And what we know, this industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. We just want our fair share, and there's no reason why we should not pursue it, especially when there's all these things happening to protect us in this space. So, and I'm gonna go back to you, Congressman, because I want to talk about some of those protections. I know that on the DC level, or what we quote unquote the state level, we do have those protections in place, and we have our rules that are enforced by APCA. But how about on the federal level? Do you think there's going to be any changes anytime soon with legalization? Oh, you're on mute. I'm sorry. And then you disappeared. So then you're on mute and then you disappear. But I'm pretty sure you're going to come back in a second, and I'll pivot that over, and we'll just go, Anna, into another question to the congressman can join us back. One question that people had, the day-to-day person wants to know, do you need a consultant or do you need to hire someone to do your application for to apply for the DC program?
So thank you for asking that. And I pride myself on helping design our application and making it accessible to literally the regular person who's going on the internet and downloading the application. You don't need to pay anyone to fill out the form for you. If you're having trouble in accessing the form, you can come to our office. We'll print it out for you. We'll help you fill it out. If you need it translated, we can work with the other government services to get the application translated. I mean, really, we want to remove, well, I personally, and I'm sure others in the government, want to see this as being removing hurdles from the process and not adding additional hurdles. So we want to make sure that everyone can access the application, whether it's through our portal or the PDF application, and that you do not need to pay anyone to complete it.
Anna, do you need to be a DC resident to apply to this program?
You actually do not need to be a DC resident. Your business does have to be registered in the district, and you do need to be able to pass clean hands for the business and all owners of 1% or more, but there is no residency requirement for a standard applicant. Social equity applicants do need to be district residents at the time that they apply.
Thank you for that. Still no reason why everyone doesn't apply to the Washington, D.C. program and become a part of this market and the cannabis industry. And I'm so happy to have you back, Congressman. I am a pleasure to have you back with us. I know I was talking to you about like the state of the federal level, but do you see legalization happening anytime soon?
Well, one thing I've seen is without the last 10, 15 years, credits to the people on this panel, the conversation about cannabis has changed. We're now moving past the war on crime and really into a conversation about how we all can live equally and safer together. We've seen former Congress members leave office who were traditionally against cannabis, now investing in the cannabis industry. Look at John Boehner, former Speaker of the House. So I do see an undercurrent of a shifting conversation, not necessarily because of our leaders, but also because of the people in the United States. The conversations have changed, and right now, the people of DC are out here really making sure that even if we don't have a vote, that we have a voice. And I was recently at last year's National Cannabis Festival. We saw people from so many different states come in and really have conversations about what will it look like to do business in DC or do business back home in the cannabis industry. And the current is changing, and it's due to the people on this call.
Well, you're so sweet. And I think what's important here is that when we legalize also is like to do it responsibly. And I know that there's so many people that have records because of their incarceration. Is there any way that on the federal level we'll get expungement, even though we got the federal pardons, but can we get records clean now so that we can live our lives again?
I appreciate you asking that. In this office, we worked with folks who have been incarcerated. We helped them get their records clear, or at least work with the lawyer to do that. We're working with CSOSA as well as Christian Legal Aid. And because DC is not a state and we have a federalized criminal justice system, we are much more narrow in scope of what we call record sealing instead of expungements compared to our neighbors in Maryland and Virginia. But we also we incorporated a job placement, not just a job fair, where we have someone who can actually give people an opportunity to work. Because what we're seeing is folks may have had a criminal record, they can't live where they want to live, they can't work where they want to work, and oftentimes lose hope. So we're here trying to restore the hope, and we're also showing them folks who still have their records, but also having six-figure careers. So one of my friends, Kunta, came in, he works for a union, and after a few years outside of jail, he's actually making more money than I do. And it really inspires some hope and allows people to know that at least in DC, what you've done before doesn't define who you are today. But we are still trying to help folks, especially if they committed offenses at a younger age. We're using the Youth Rehabilitation Act to help them see their records and live lives without barriers.
It's so amazing. Every day you wake up is a day of second chances. And
Absolutely.
I believe that fully. I know that when we're thinking about expungement, I think what we're not talking about is the simple fact that if you are pardoned from your crime, and then, which is cannabis possession, and if you are expunged, then you might actually get voting rights. And what are the implications of having your voting rights back in America or throughout Congress?
Absolutely. Having your voting rights restored is one step closer to being a full citizen. As we all know, taxation without representation, but also voting rights is an extremely important dynamic of being an American citizen. It gives you an opportunity to say who is not only going to be your next president, but who's also going to be your ANC commissioner, who's going to be your sheriff, who's going to be your county clerk and county judge, regardless of where you live. Allows you to have a say, and also allows you to have your representation come see you. It's been a big focal point of getting folks who have been incarcerated to not only fight for their right to vote, but also exercise it once it's restored. But we're having these conversations to make sure people aren't just talked down to, that they're involved with the conversations as well. And we've been blessed to be able to touch many lives, and they've touched mine as well.
It's amazing, Congressman, when you think about, like, it's time for us reclaiming our power. Like, this is 2024. We need to reclaim our power and know that we're able to do it. And thank you for leading that voice and encouraging us to actually do that, and support those that support us. I think that is important. When we look about who's in Congress representing us, who's on the state level representing us, we need someone that is really representing us and being authentic to the movement. So I definitely applaud you for that. And for those that are hesitant in getting into the industry, only thing I can say is that God doesn't give us a spirit of fear. You know, that is those doubts and those considerations that you're making, it's not your own, because we're not given that spirit. And I really encourage you, this is an opportunity for everyone to get involved. And I think this is your calling. And I'm planting these seeds because I know there's dynamic people out there that would do so well in this industry if they actually believe in themselves and give themselves the grace and the mercy to try. So I'm going to pivot back to Anna on that note and ask you, when are the applications due for this next round?
So the current round, the application window closes on January 29th, 2024 at 4 p.m. The next open application period will begin at 9 a.m. March 1st, 2024. So you have until 4 p.m. on January 29th, 2024 to get your application in with your documentation. We'll accept applications and still work with you if you're missing documentation. But you have to get an application in for us to be able to consider you.
And Anna, what's the best website for people to go look you up and find out more about the programming or to ask questions?
So the Alcoholic Beverage and Cannabis Administration webpage is the first place you want to go to when you want to get licensed. And even if you're looking to become registered as a patient, or you're visiting DC and you will be traveling across state lines, so you'll want to register as a non-resident patient as well there. abca.dc.gov is the website. And from there, you'll go to licensing and medical cannabis licensing.
Wow. And, that's a wonderful plug. That's why I love DC so much. If you're a resident, non-resident, if you're international, you go to one of the licensed retailers, and with a very modest fee, can get access to a variety of cannabis products for your health and your well-being. So I am so excited, and I know some of the perks of the DC program, which would apply for everyone that is watching, is that you can actually have delivery, and you can also have up to 8 ounces a purchase. And there's all different forms, including topicals, tinctures, flower, concentrates, etc. So that is definitely one of the things that people need to consider when traveling to DC, to make sure that you use a licensed facility. And that's why we're asking everyone to get licensed, so that you're protected. And Congressman, you are our advocate in the cannabis space in Washington, D.C., but your voice in healthcare really has permeated what we know on the community level. How can we support you? Because I know you're up for a race right now. Can you tell us where, if we want to donate, how do we reach you? How can we support you for supporting us?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. But before I even get to me, it's really about the audience, about you all. The biggest piece of advice I have for anybody is to get involved. Take that jump. If you're thinking about running for office, if you're thinking about opening a business, jump in and show up. Because the difference between succeeding and not succeeding is that very, very step. 90% of life is about showing up. Me personally, my website, if you want to get more involved in this campaign, is OYE4FORDC.com. We're really working on not only being the vote of DC, but also being the voice of that as well. So it's not just DC matters. I really think that DC statehood impacts our national stage. It allows us to have more votes in there. It allows us to be more self-autonomous compared to being a district of the federal government. So anybody or everybody who thinks about fairness and about how we can be involved, please lock in on that front. But most importantly, like I said, just being a voice, whether it's the cannabis industries. Someone's watching us at any time, whether it's 5 people, 100 people, or 1,000 people. We can change people's minds by having these conversations. We can have someone prioritize these issues by having these conversations, whether it's in our church or whether it's in our businesses. Just have these conversations, help us destigmatize what's been going on for the past tens of years or so. But me personally, I am up for re-election every 2 years. I'm running for re-election to be U.S. Representative of Washington, D.C. And just opportunities like this help us amplify our impact.
Wow. I'm so grateful to have the both of you here today. It's been an amazing conversation for our community. I really, really hope that our community engages with you both and realize that we are here for them, and we want you to be a part of this. And there's no other way I can say thank you enough for the opportunity for the community to be a part of a legal market. And I just, there's words can't transcend how grateful I am. And I want the both of you to know that I'm appreciative of your service, everything you do for us day to day. And may God bless you both in 2024. And with that said, this is the last program of the year for Women Grow. But we only have 3 more days. We will have more programming. So we will be back in full-fledged action. But for all those that joined us today, I want to say thank you for joining us. Encourage you to jump into the cannabis industry. And also to know that 2024, I claim it as a rebirth for us to gain our power. And so I'm praying for everyone to be empowered, encouraged, and know that we are able to do this. God bless you all, and good night.